Let's speak now to Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism. He was, of course, formerly the head of the IEA as well. Mark, great to have you back on the show.
Hi, Alex.
Rachel Reeves, what sort of horrible myxomatosis-ridden rabbit is going to come out of her hat?
Yeah, it's hard to say, really, but it's going to be grim, whatever type of rabbit it is. She's boxed herself in. She has no room for manoeuvre. She did say after her last budget that she had stabilised the economy and would not need to come back for more. Well, that has proven to be false. She is bound to come back for more. She said that those with the broadest shoulders can expect to have the largest burden put on them. But here's the bad news, Alex. Those with the broadest shoulders have left. Vast numbers of millionaires and the ultra-rich are leaving the country. We haven't treated them very well either culturally, I think. We consider them just to be cash cows rather than valuable parts of the British economy. And we haven't treated them well for tax purposes. So the number of people who are now leaving affluent parts of the UK and going to Dubai, Singapore, Monaco, Italy even, is pretty big. So I'm afraid it's going to be well, you look quite shoulder padded up, actually, Alex. Maybe you've got fairly broad shoulders. I haven't, but it's going to be put on the shoulders of people like you and me.
Well, this is my worry, because I ain't got two pennies to rub together. I've only just got on the housing ladder at the grand old age of 41, almost 42, and I don't even have a blimmin' pension because I'm a freelancer. I'm going to be living under a motorway bridge with cats in my hijab. When I'm 70 years old. I can't wait. But, talking about the capital flight out of London, this year alone, 12,500 millionaires have left London. The year before, it was 10,000 millionaires. That's money literally just rinsing out of the exchequer. These are the people who pay most of the taxes. And what people fail to understand is even if you put a flat 10% tax on everybody, the millionaire is paying a lot more money than the person who's on 20k. But the problem is she is clearly going after something. There are various things floating around that people are worried about. One of them is looking into capital gains again. The suggestion that capital gains tax could be increased or there would be no exemption on a primary residence. If you're selling a property that in theory you live in and it's your primary residence, which at the moment you don't have to pay capital gains on, she might seek to add that. There's been a suggestion of there being an annual tax on multi-million-pound properties. If you happen to own a place, you might not have much expendable income, but if your property value, due to there being a crisis in the housing market and a rise in demand over the years, it's now worth a certain amount of money, they might come after you and go, right, you've got to pay an annual tax on that. And then they might even look at taxing pensions. I mean, look, if it is those things, I'm going to sit there and go, right, yeah, none of it comes to me, Mark. I haven't got any assets. But it seems to be assets that she's going to target.
Yes, I think that's right. And I've probably got particularly bad news for you. Sorry, Alex, that I think that it's likely property that she will go for.
Oh, it's all right. My humble little house ain't going to sort of spark any interest.
Well, you say that. Maybe you'll be second or third in line, not first in line. But the reason that often that politicians are attracted to taxing property is it isn't mobile, right? They know who owns it. They know where it is. You can't hide it. You can't move it. So I'm expecting somehow or other, you've floated a couple of the ideas there that maybe it's a capital gain if you sell your primary residence and downsize and you've made a profit on it. Maybe Rachel will help herself to a slice of that profit. That's possible. It could be a more just straight direct property tax, some levy added onto your council tax, say for national purposes. I'm speculating there, but she's likely to go for property. That will gum up what's already a pretty disastrous property market, because if you know you're going to face a very big bill upon selling your house, you're going to be hugely disincentivized to do so. You won't decide to downsize because you'll calculate the huge bill that you face. So I think property she's going to go for. But Alex, if you were minded to start saving for your pension, I'm afraid that's going to get pretty difficult for you as well, I would guess, because I suspect that the present rather sensible, even if complicated, rules we have about pensions are going to tighten up. At the moment, you can tuck money away in your pension up to a very reasonable amount. I think you can put away up to 40,000 or so in a year, and then you pay the tax on it when you draw it out, not when you put it in. So the idea is you kind of smooth your income over your life, and when your earnings are relatively high over your life cycle, you put some money away and you draw that down later in life when your earnings might be lower. I suspect she's going to make it harder for people to save into their pension, and the tax breaks on doing so will become meaner. So it's going to be grim all around. Of course, none of this fits in with what used to be their professed strategy, although we haven't heard the phrase for a while, that they are laser focused on growth. Remember that? Laser focused. Growth is our #1 priority. Well, truth of the matter is, if you keep taxing more and regulating more and spending money broadly inefficiently in the public sector, you ain't going to get growth. And the fact that we haven't got growth is making poor Rachel's problems even worse, giving her a migraine every day. Because if we could only get growth into the economy, we could just get back to what we used to have, standard growth rates of 2 or 3% per annum. That's to say, on average, people getting 2 or 3% richer per annum. I'm not saying that would solve all of our problems. It wouldn't make them go away, but wow, it would make them easier to deal with, because tax receipts would start going up because people were doing well and earning more, and you'd have a kind of natural way of eventually getting to balance the books. But unfortunately, she's going to tackle the problem the other way round, make a money grab now, try and say that this is just another one-off where we need some more of your cash to get through a difficult period. I suspect that will dampen growth even further. We may even go into a recession. Tax receipts will fall. And you know what? I think in 12 or so months' time, Alex, you and I will be speculating about what will be in the 2026 budget, and it will be equally grim.
Yeah, it's interesting. If we wanted to suddenly, I don't know, turn a corner and start having growth in the economy, we just need to not be left-wing, which is a bit difficult with this current government. I mean, talking about that, before we move on to other things, how doom and gloom is it? Because there was speculation a while ago that France was going to need a bailout from the IMF, that Britain isn't necessarily far behind. Astonishingly, even though we basically have zero growth, we're still actually growing, I don't know, incrementally a 0.0 of a percentage point ahead of our European partners who are really in the doldrums. What are we essentially sitting on? A ticking time bomb? Because it's been suggested to me that either we're going to have to go for the sort of giant charity check from the IMF at some point in this government, or what they could be doing is bailing it out just about enough, but leaving it so that if the government changed and let's say Nigel Farage walked into number 10 Downing Street, that's when the rug could be pulled out from under Britain's feet, and then they'll go, oh look, Nigel Farage crashed the economy.
Yeah, the timing, very, very hard to predict. And I'm usually sceptical about economic forecasts of any type, especially very specific ones, Alex. So I'm not going to tell you that, you know, doomsday is going to arrive at 11 a.m. on the 12th of March, 2027. It's very, very hard to predict. What we can say in broad terms, I think it is undeniable that our present public sector and the state of our public finances is completely unsustainable. You can get by with continuing to live in la-la land for another week, another month, maybe another few years. But if something's unsustainable, it cannot be sustained forever. And the sheer scale of our national debt, oftentimes this is described as being about 100% of GDP. That's to say, if we wanted to clear our cash debt, we would have to take every single penny generated in the UK for a full year to pay it off. But the picture's much bleaker than that, because we have huge liabilities that we haven't worked out what to do about. We've got an aging population, so their healthcare needs, social care needs, pension needs are generally going to tick up. We have colossally generous, gold-plated public sector pensions. If you worked in the public sector, not the private sector, again, they're unfunded. I mean, these potentially run into trillions. The way of thinking about it, I think a reasonable number to roughly have in your head is that debt in the UK, government debt, is north of £100,000 for every man, woman and child, and it's going up. And that can't keep going up. The problem about the IMF thing, Alex, lots of people think back to or look through the history books about what happened in the 1970s when we called in the IMF. Britain's fiscal problem is now so vast, it is almost impossible to believe that the IMF could bail us out. So we will have to do the surgery ourselves, almost for certain. And the longer you leave surgery, the more painful it is when it comes. But there's no sign that Rachel is going to get on with it anytime soon. So when it does come, perhaps in the form of the next government, it's going to be more painful than it needed to be. But we've left it so long, it's going to be painful even if we started now.
Mark, thank you ever so much. Thank you for the doom and gloom, cheering us all up. And by the way, when I am 70, living under a motorway bridge with cats, will you have a spare room for me? Because I am kind of worried.
They'll probably tax that to death as well, Alex.
What, my motorway bridge, my brazier?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Never mind. Oh, well, if people can just lob me the occasional stale sandwich and some Friskies for my feline friends, that will do me well. All right, Mark Littlewood, thank you ever so much, Director of Popular Conservatism.